mokili ekoningana merengwe merengwe lobina tongo mokili ekozibwana merengwe merengwe lobina tongo mokili ekobaluka merengwe merengwe lobina tongo mokili ekoningana merengwe merengwe lobina tongo mokili ekozibwana merengwe merengwe mama merengwe la merengwe 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 mokili ekobaluka merengwe merengwe lobina tongo mokili ekoningana merengwe merengwe lobina tongo mokili ekozibwana merengwe merengwe mama merengwe la merengwe 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 merengwe
Good evening. Tonight we talk DRC elections and the readiness of this vast country for this an historic event. This as the Security Council on Monday authorized the transfer of more than 800 United Nations peacekeepers from Burundi to the Democratic Republic of Congo until July the 1st to help prepare for the elections. The redeployment is set for May. The 2-month redeployment can be extended. The DRC elections will be the first free democratic vote over 40 years and will mark the end of the volatile political transition that began in 2003 after years of civil war. 32 candidates, including current DRC President Joseph Kabila, have been registered to run in the election. Well, joining me to talk about this election and also to try and get to understand exactly how prepared this country is Vincent Toby, who is Electoral Institute of Southern Africa DRC country representative, and Mr. Jemadari Kilele, who is Congolese and from the Parti National Congolais. Thank you, gentlemen, for having been my guests this evening. Now, let me start with you, Vincent. Just give us an update, country rep of ISA, on exactly the readiness from the way you have seen the country preparing itself for this election.
Thank you very much. Before answering to your question, I would like to correct something, because you said there are 32 candidates registered for the presidency. The real figure is 63.
Well, it
yes,
has risen now.
Yes, 63. So the official list of candidates will be given on the 19th of April. So to answer to your question, I think the readiness of the Electoral Commission to prepare the elections can be put in two different aspects. The logistic aspect, which is the most difficult one, and the political aspect. At the logistic aspect, where from what we learned from the Constitution, the referendum in December, 19th December, we can say that the Commission will get ready for that elections with the support of the United Nations, and all the other agencies helping them, UNDP, the EU, the South African Embassy, the South African government. So I think at this level, we shouldn't be worried, even if the country is vast and huge and there are many things to do. At a political level, that's, I think, is a challenge because, as you know, one of the major political parties didn't register. So what is going to happen? Are they going to keep their position or to contest those elections? And so far, they haven't been registered for both the presidential and parliamentary elections. So that's the main concern, because we are in a transition and we were expecting all the people, all the political parties to get involved so that we have a very inclusive process. But that's, I think, it's another issue that the Congolese can discuss themselves and find a solution.
But of course, I think it does have an impact, or does it not, on how these elections might proceed or probably be hampered? Because I suppose this other party that hasn't joined into these elections, we don't know what will happen on election day. Well, what are you getting on the ground, the sense you're getting, that there might be disruptions, that they're not happy, and what can they do, or are they just going to lie low?
Okay, now you were just pointing out the problems that can emerge. First of all, before the elections, if there is a boycott, it will be very difficult for the people to go out and cast their votes. This is before the election. The campaign, how are people going to reach all the different provinces, the different towns and cities to campaign? But I think the main concern is after the elections. We come from a very long process. In the introduction, you were saying that this will be the first election in the DRC after 40 years after 40 years. So after the elections, if the other parties who will not contest this election, if they refuse the result, if they refuse to acknowledge the government there, that can be a serious problem. And on the other hand, there is one thing. You know, most of the political parties, the major political parties there, they came from the war. They were rebel groups. So we hope that after the elections, those people are not going to say, to take the argument of UDPS, for instance, and say, no, we don't acknowledge, we don't recognize the government or the person who have been elected. So that's one of the most important issues that needs to be addressed before we move forward.
Okay, so that's your assessment there. Mr. Kilele, the way you see things, where you sit, ready for these elections?
Thank you, Daniel. I know very often when people meet to solve a problem, very often they always make a mistake somewhere. Congo is not ready yet for elections. It is those people who draw interest out of the chaotic situation, who are pushing for elections. I will not evoke all the point here, but I will talk about one point. You know, there were conditions and preconditions after the Sun City Agreement. One of the points was the unification and reunification of the army. There were 5 conditions or preconditions. Mostly this 1 year of the army, Congo actually hasn't been having an army up to now. And you can't organize elections in a country where militarily the situation is volatile. We got 4 to 5 factions, the main factions, UDPS, and mostly the belligerent, not UDPS, because UDPS didn't take arms. Those belligerents, those warlords, still have got their military behind them. The army has never been unified. And should we go for elections and one person wins the elections, the rest will take arms and they will disrupt the result of the elections. So there is no readiness. It is utopian. It's an illusion that people are rushing for. There is no readiness of organizing elections in Congo.
Do you think there's going to be ever that guarantee that people will not be disgruntled? Even in the most stable of countries, election results are always challenged. Some even cry foul and fraud. So this is not a monopoly of the Congolese when it comes to disagreeing on the result. But should we say we can never be ready because of that fear?
Well, it was in the prescription of the Sun City Agreement. I'm not the one who drafted it. It is their mentors and themselves signed this document. they should have accomplished, first of all, those preconditions before going to elections. Truly, in other countries, you always find people who are contesting the result. But there is military, there is an army. In Congo, there is no army. And on top of that, we can add something else. Talking about free and fair elections. To organize free and fair elections in a country, there are conditions. One of those conditions, first of all, is the census of the population. Not long ago, on the 18th of December, they have given the result of a referendum on basis of what we don't know. The government doesn't have any exact number of the Congolese population. So the result of referendum was invalid. It was a farce. And the elections will be farce as well, because they don't have any census. For the past 2.5 decades in Congo, no census has been run. Now, I think if you remember, during referendum, some electoral kits were taken to Rwanda, to Burundi, and to Uganda, in a bid to allow those people to vote and give more voices, more vote to RCD and their allies. Now, how will you proclaim the result of those elections free and fair when the government doesn't control all the parallels of the territory? It's a farce. So there is no readiness. It's illusion. And we can't go for elections. They are just pressing people for nothing.
What do you say, Vincent, to that? One would have said the pretext of the referendum would have given indications that at least this country, however difficult the situation is, and you spoke about logistics, maybe the IAC might talk about having all the ducks in a row, but it's a vast country whose infrastructure is a bit limited right now.
Yes, but as I told you, at the logistic level, there were so many problems in the registration of voters. And now, when it came to the vote itself, the UN and the CI and all the stakeholders, they had something like 2 months to deploy all the material, the kits all over the DRC. We, as ISA, we had some mediators on the ground, some observers, and ourselves traveling all over the provinces, everywhere. We haven't reported the thing that my colleague here is mentioning. We haven't been reported anything from all the different observers group, the foreigners, the local people, the local NGOs. So I think there is something, I'm not Congolese, but sometimes I'm wondering what some of the people want. Because last year, in 2004 and 2005, what it was about extending the transition to get ready for the election, people said no. The people, let's say the diaspora, they all said no. We want the election now because we don't want any extension. Now we are going to organize the election. They said no, we are not ready for that. So we are wondering. I come from a country in war. I come from Ivory Coast. And when I see what is happening there, I realize that the Congolese are doing very well. And being on the ground, I can tell you that many, many positive things are being done by the Congolese themselves, but also by all the people who are supporting them, starting by the South African government, was going to give planes and helicopters to help them, by the UN, by the international NGOs such as ours. So a lot of things are being done there. So I'm not as pessimistic as my colleague here, but you must go there. You must go in Congo, in Kinshasa, in Kisangani, all those places and see what is being done. Today, you will find the UN personnel everywhere, in every corner of the DRC. The planes, and even there are some places where there is any road, but they are managing to get the staff there to work. So I'm very, very, very positive. My only concern is at the political level. How are we going to have a legitimacy if some of the major political parties don't contest that election? That's the problem, but not at the political level. Even, let's talk about even our activities. We are deploying observers and mediators all over the country. We are very small NGOs, but we manage to do it. We have people everywhere. What about the UN and the IEC, who have much more means and logistic support to do it? So the election can be done. Let's now think about the political aspect, which is much more serious than the logistic aspect.
What do you say, Mr. Kilele?
Can I maybe add something about the army?
Sure.
Yes. DRC has no army. I wouldn't go to that extreme point. It's true what my colleague was saying, that they came from a very long war. There are still some warlords there. That's true. Everybody knows it. But you must recognize all the efforts that are being done there. The South African government, the Belgian government, the Congolese themselves, they are putting in place system for the integration of the army. So now you go to Kisangani, you go to Bukavu, to Goma, you will find all the armies coming from RCD, from MLC, from the former government, being in the same site, working together. But we won't have a situation where we'll be ready for the election. This is a process that has started now and will go after the election. So that's my view.
Thank you, Toby. I'm happy. One thing, that you are not a Congolese and you are totally ignorant of the situation, given the fact that you belong to an institution which claims to know more, sponsoring your travel to go to Congo. It's a trip you went to enjoy, visiting, sighting Africa. You don't know anything about Congo.
I thought Mr. Toby is on the ground. He actually...
I come from DRC 3 weeks ago. I was in the eastern part of Congo, in DRC. You find more than 15,000 FDLR Interarmy soldiers who are there. They have collided with the Tutsi of RCD. It is known. You can't say that there is a joint military or they are doing well. That's not true. You should not talk about things that you don't know simply because you are sponsored. The United Nations are not doing anything. What about the massacre of the people? What about the rape of our mothers and our sisters and our daughters? The MONUC is not doing anything at all. They don't report anything about that. What about when you go in the northern part of Kivu, in Goma, in Ruchuru, where Nkunda Batware has got all his army ready to intervene anytime they want? Didn't you see that? You can't distinguish who is a Congolese and who is not a Congolese. So you should not, jump into deep water. You will drown yourself. Please do not come with such statement anymore. Congo is not ready for elections, and there will be war. When you go to Minembwe, I was in Minembwe, which Rubera of RCD is claiming to have it, declared as an independent territory. You find tons of weapons, military hardware, being airshipped from Kigali to Minembwe on a daily basis.
You have proof of this?
What you mean by proof?
Well,
I was there. I don't have the pictures or the camera filmed, but I was there. Even the